The Federal Executive Council has approved the medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper for 2020 and 2024. They document a requirement of Fiscal Responsibility Act projects 13.98 trillion naira as budget size for the 2022 fiscal year. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed announced this while briefing newsmen after the council's meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari and State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
The medium-term expenditure framework and fiscal strategy paper describes Nigeria's socio-economic developmental objectives and priorities for the next 3 years. The report highlights the key drivers of government revenue and spending plans towards improving the nation's macroeconomic situation and reposition the economy on the path of inclusive, diversified, and sustainable growth.
Key information is that the Nigerian economy recovered from a negative growth of minus 1.8% in 2020 to 2.5% in 2021 and then to 4.2% in 2022. Also, the inflation has moderated from a 19 months high. It's now moderated 2 months now that is coming down to 17.93%. And our foreign reserves stand at 34.2 billion at the end of May, which is a 640 million decline from the previous month.
Consequently, the key macro assumptions approved by the Council show that for the year 2022, there will be a crude oil benchmark price of $57 per barrel, a crude oil production of 1.88 million barrels per day, an exchange rate of 410 naira 15 kobo to $1 as well as an inflation rate of 13%.
What is interesting is that the non-oil GDP continues to grow at 169.69 trillion compared to oil GDP of 14.68 trillion. We have also presented to the federal government the projected revenues for the 2022 to 2024. Specifically for 2022, the revenue that we expect is 6.54 trillion and 2.62 trillion to accrue to the Federation account and VAT pool respectively. And then that there will be a net oil and gas revenue available for the Federation account FAC for distribution. It will be 6.51 trillion in 2022. This revenue is projected to increase in 2023 to 9.15 trillion. The total expenditure we had projected and approved by Council is an aggregate expenditure of 13.98 trillion naira. This includes 1.1 trillion naira of government-owned enterprises expenditure, as well as grants and donor-funded projects in the sum of 62.24 billion. This means that this budget is just 3% higher than the 2021 budget in terms of the size of expenditure.
The minister also reported to Council a 5.62 trillion naira budget deficit projected for 2022 as against the 5.60 trillion naira in 2021. This, she explained, represents 3.05% of the estimated GDP, which is slightly above the 3% threshold specified in the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
The FRA empowers Mr. President to exceed the threshold if, in his opinion, the nation faces national security threats, and it is our opinion and FEC agreed that we can exceed it. The deficit is going to be financed by both domestic and foreign borrowing in the sum of 4.89 trillion and privatization proceeds of 90.73 billion and drawdowns from existing project-tied loans of 635 billion.
Clearly stated in the report is that the projected debt-to-revenue ratio is 43%, which the minister described as an improvement over those of the preceding years, which stood at 85% in 2020 and 58% in 2019. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.